seeing how we can impart, maybe change the narrative and create a new blueprint for the coming generation.
Yes.
And it's father figures and growing up. We'll have an important conversation about fatherhood, specifically what it means to grow up without a father and how that experience shapes us as well. For many, the absence of a father, whether physically or emotionally, creates challenges but also creates opportunities for growth, resilience, and transformation. In this episode, we'll discuss the turning points in our lives, the people who stepped in as role models, and the systems that helped us navigate motherhood. Um, I think that is it in a nutshell. But sometimes we're only just a conversation away
Yeah.
from truth, from the truth. Sometimes we sit too long with an issue and think so much on it, and yet with these different spaces that we're invited into, we get more knowledge, and it's now just a matter of choosing applying it because now the ball is in our hands. So this is more than just a conversation; it's a chance to redefine fatherhood, honor those who have guided us, and create a blueprint for the next generation. So we can get into it. I would like to ask Mr. Fred, what has your experience been like growing up? What was it like growing up? Did you have a father figure? Was he there? What was that experience like? Basically, just give us the raw bit of it.
Oh, thank you. Frederick Menu is my name. I'm the CEO, Tonga Africa Safaris. Uh, the way the name sounds, Africa Safaris, we do trips, tours around the country and around East Africa and the continent as large. We're trying to rewrite our story from a perspective as Africans. We've had so many things around us: River Nile, Lake Victoria, Mount Rwenzori, Elgon. Some of these have they've been named given Western names. Some of them had local names that we abandoned. For example, Victoria was Naluvale, it was abandoned. So we as Tunga Africa Safaris, we are trying to rewrite our narrative using tour, travel, poetry, and spaces like this. So back to the topic, growing up as a man. You should have added, especially in the African family.
Man.
That's what we
Yeah, yes. It's challenging, by the way, being a man in the society that we live in. I come from a family of 7, 5 boys and 2 girls. I'm the second last born. I follow 2 sisters. My last memory of my dad was when I was in P2. Yes. So that's the last vivid memory I have of my dad. But I was blessed to have had 3 elder brothers who mentored me, provided for me, paid my tuition, dressed me up. And so for me, the only figure of a father I have is those 3 brothers of mine. Yes, and if they hadn't opened up their homes for me, I don't know the kind of man I would be. But because of that, it's also challenging in a way that you do not have this, should I call it privilege, of knowing this is my dad, I can ask for whatever I want. Yes, at the back of your mind, these are just my brothers. So there are things that you cannot express to them because you have that conflicting loyalty of brotherhood, and also them being that they're not your parent, they're not your father. You don't have the audacity of asking for anything you want. at the back of your mind, they're not obligated to provide for me. You get? And so anything they give you, you just take with two hands. So sometimes when you have these questions, I used to be at school and you would see children, for example, on visitation. I was in a day school from my primary up to about senior four. So there, uh, it was more or less the same, but also on big days, Christmas, what you'd hear stories of children with my father bought me this, my father did, and you're like, how does it feel, to experience that kind of love? And even when it came to boarding section, I went to boarding in senior five. I was visited twice, by the way. Form 5 and Form 6. For the 2 years, I was visited twice. I was in St. Peter's in earlier. Yes. And for me, it didn't shock. I think I was out.
Did you feel like you didn't deserve that?
In the.
How did you reach out to those people? Like, to show them that, okay, I think I deserved more visitations than this.
I think for me, life had prepared me way back. In the first place, I didn't expect anyone to visit me. You get. Yeah, I was already prepared. Yeah, psychological, I was prepared. So even these two times when my brother came, I was like, it was a surprise. Actually, they looked for me like for about an hour and a half. I was in the dormitory. I was not bothered. I was not expecting anyone. So when they came, it was just a plus for me. But other days, of course, you'd see parents visiting their children, and you feel like there's something missing. Yeah. And because of that,
No. I bring the phone.
I grew up to become
Our day
very
busy.
independent at
I
a
bring and
very
you do it.
young stage.
You
Yes,
is it.
very
You know you're on
independent.
camera.
I've I've done things that the things I look at, you know, people my age, and when they're talking, they're like, my dad, my dad. Me, I'm like, you guys. Even
Chejo.
my mom was a stay-home mom, but she made sure that she bonded us as children. Yeah, so we grew up to love each other, and at this moment, because of what my siblings uh, taught me, or because of what they offered, I've also learned to propagate the same thing. My home is open for my nephews, my cousins, my niece. Every holiday, actually, when you come home, you might think it is, because it is open house, and God
Someone
has,
might think you have very many children.
yes, God has blessed me with a wife who also understands my situation. Yes, and she's even more welcoming. My nephews, actually, most of them, they communicate with her more than they communicate with me. Sometimes I just come back home and I realize someone is already in the house. So, short in brief, that's been my story. I can speak till tomorrow. So,
Right.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
yes.
it's
Wonderful.
quite interesting how our past experiences can shape us into the people who we eventually become. Because I can see how you didn't have that expectation of being visited at school. It literally had to look for you. But the transformation in it, I think the silver lining is you becoming independent of materials. How has that independence like impacted your life going forward after you were done with school? Let's say with relationships, career wise. How has that independence helped you?
Uh, you see, I come from a family where we didn't have an earlier generation in Kampala. My first time to come to Kampala, I came to visit my brother, who I later started staying with. So he was our first generation in Kampala. Now, when I came, we were now competing. okay, competing, I don't think it's the appropriate term, but we were relating with children whose grandparents were already established in Kampala. You get? Now, by all means, our struggles were going to be different, or our walks of life were going to be different. For me, I am struggling to see that I establish a generation for my children also in Kampala so that they will grow up and say, ah, our dad, uh, this is our father's house. You know, they lived here. For us, we didn't have that privilege. And so, because of that, it appeared at some point like we're moving so slowly as compared to our peers whose parents were already established in town. Yes, because I'll tell you, there are so many things I missed out. Uh, Not because I did not have the capacity mentally, but I did not have the capacity to sustain them financially. I talked about my independence. Me, I started renting when I was in campus. I think third year. Now everything entirely had to rely on on myself. So you have a gig. I used to do sound at Watoto Church, but I was staying in Chireka, and sometimes the trainings had to be in town. But you see, you want to do it, but you cannot sustain the transport. You have to go to town. You don't have when you get 10,000. You have to first think about food. You have to think about rent. You're renting a house of about 40,000, but you're in areas of like 5 months. Yeah, so when you get a 20,000, you debate between going to town and first stocking somewhere, some mukene and
Of course.
you get so that independence. But I learned one thing. I told myself I'll not compete with anyone. I just want to compete with my past self. Yes, I want to be. I want to see. Am I moving any step better? Am I becoming better every day? For me, that has always been my biggest competition. I don't compete with people, so that independence taught me try to be better every day. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. We have a very nice looking gentleman here.
Yes, sir.
That was child in the Christmas season, right? Okay.
Be a me.
Happy day, everyone.
Right on.
Yes.
Mr. Timothy,
Yes.
let us hear from you. We've heard from Mr. Fred what his childhood has been like up to
Manure.
at least campus, and a little bit of what that has been like after. What has it been like for you growing up?
Manua is the only one on your life.
What has your
Greetings,
experience
greetings, everyone.
Manua Polot.
I Bulgarian Timothy is my name.
Larger.
Larger.
I'm the CEO of Miti Creatives. We do crafts and art, and yeah, that's why we are apparently.
And events.
And
Mm.
events. I forgot
Give
to
us
say
the
that. Well,
Small shit.
the story of my growth started here in Kampala. It was a beautiful one, yet a very sad one. Uh, as I was growing up, I never saw my father, but then I had my mother. So everything was moving on right until one day we were supposed to go back. We were supposed to go to a village for Christmas, and we had to leave the town, go for Christmas, and come back. So when we left for Christmas, by the time we came back, thieves had stolen all our mother's things and stuff. So when the moment we came back, my mother decides that we have to go back and stay with my grandmother, and she has to start over again and find ways of how we're going to study and how she can sustain us as kids. So we had to go back to Mbara. So all my life, I've had two men that are not actually men. I have a grandmother, a very strong one. Then I have my mother. My mother was distant, so her love used to come through during Christmas times. But I had a very strong woman, and she gave me my name, Bam Peter Bogede. Yes, this my name comes out from a very huge story that everyone was asking my grandmother, where is the father of this guy? Where is the father? Everyone used to ask, like, where is the father? Where is the like people are really concerned, by the way. So they used to ask her, where is the father? So until she was like, okay, let them talk, let them say whatever. That woman did everything for me as a mother. She loved me. She showered me up to P5, is it? I'd shower myself sometimes, but she would find time on her free days. She tells you, I told people have lunch, you get. She taught me really a lot. But then when I got to my P7, my mother had gotten married to some other man. You see, so my mother tells my grandmother that when Timothy is done with his P7 and he performed right, that the guy should come through and stay with us. So when I was coming this side, I knew for sure where I'm going to stay at. This is not my father. He's not my father, but at least now I have someone that I can look up to, someone who's going to guide me on different things. Yeah, we tried life anyway. But then when I was this side, when I was in Form 1, my mother took me to boarding school. So all the times they took me to boarding school, all the times they took me to school rather, I realized I've not compensated the love that I really missed. And still, okay, this guy was new to me, I was new to him, so we're trying to study each other. He was free, really free. My stepdad was really free at some extent. But as time went on, I was growing, and of course he was growing. So yeah, he really told me that you can actually take care of anyone. Yeah, it doesn't matter what, and just be welcoming people, love people, like spread the love. Just cause I learned all these things from this man, cause not at any time did he show me that I'm not his son. Yeah, so basically my life has been like that. But later on, as I moved on in life, I managed to meet my father finally when I was 25
Biological.
years, my biological father. Uh, Let me get back shortly. When I was done with my Form 6, my understanding had really grown. There are particular questions that I had, and no one was giving me answers. So I stood up, started asking my mother. Okay, like, okay, everything happens because at that time I'd realized, okay, a lot happens in this world, and not there's no one who's perfect, right? Everyone just tries that, like, they try what they can do. If someone gives you some bad energy, man, that's what they have. So it's up to you who is getting it to know that, okay, man, this person is also trying that shit. You see, um I realized it doesn't matter what happened in the past of my mother and my father, but I have to reach out and look for this man. Not to tell him, man, you didn't do this or that, just to meet him and tell him, man, what's up? What's going on, man? What happened?
Because of the void you had.
Yes. So the very first time my mother took me to meet my father, actually went straight. I was really excited. When I met this man, I was not even angry. I went really low. I was like, oh, for the first time I've met my father. Like any other person. Like the child in me was actually present, but in a bigger body. But I felt like, man, my son, my dad is here. And when we started talking with my father, that's where the story flipped. Like when I started talking to this man, I realized it's not even about him. You get this system has been his system, or probably the system that was there earlier, was not really strong enough. He was not guided. See, and when I took
He was following the natural African
probably
father instinct.
yes,
You know the you
uh,
know the stereotype of African fathers,
yes,
Or
and
black
especially in the
men.
US, black men.
I
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
man.
It was just African
Because
instinct.
when I talked to this man, all he was telling me that okay, this is your land, this is what I'm like, man. I'm not even here for this shit. I'm here to get to know that okay, my father, okay, this is us. This is what defines us. That's what I wanted to know. But then I realized probably you can't really open it up in one day. So I gave it a try over and over. I visited my father. And the more I visited my father, one day that was his birthday. He's born on the same day when I was born. So we share a
For
birthday
real?
with yes.
That's
So as
lit.
with this man, there was a Thanksgiving, and I stand up in front of a big number of people, and I'm telling these people, uh, "Good evening, everyone. My name is Bogere Timothy." Then this man stands up and he's like, "No, that's not your name, son."
In front of many
Everyone,
people.
yes. Then he tells me,
How old were you?
25. So my father tells me,
You've had
Amanyaga,
the wrong name for
yeah.
25
Then
years.
aganangamba amanyago gwelubwama Timothy.
Mhm.
Weddira fumbe. That means he's telling me the truth. Weddira fumbe akabiro chikere. I like yo, I'm a solid Muganda. Kati, I really felt so good because I had proper definition from my father.
Yeah.
I felt like the way to Tumijuche feels about his like the way you felt all your life. I felt I got that feeling when I was 25. Yeah, so actually I fell in love with this whole process of meeting my father. So I kept on coming. So yeah, basically life has been like that but unfortunately, by the time I met him, by the time I really got to interact with him, we didn't talk about some bit of the system that I really needed to know, but he probably knows some bit of it, but could not let me because I was not asking, and he can't tell me because he was not told. So I later on become a father.
I,
You
I,
get?
I I think when you've had that void for a long time, and coming from a point where you've not grown up together, and these were two people who met, and you can't tell what happened, you know. And so at this time, I think the man is like, I am not sure what he has been told
Yeah.
As the truth.
as the truth, and
Wild.
he also has what he's holding on probably as his side of the truth. So he
Yeah.
wants to tread carefully.
Most probably he's guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I kept.
Also,
But then
he might be guilty, he might not. And I think that will be for a deeper debate.
Yeah.
well, I gave this man all chances. Eh, I showed him that I'm really actually interested in our relationship. So I went back to back because I needed the information. But okay, it was I think later because I was at a very sensitive stage in my life of seeing beautiful girls. You get,
Yeah.
but at the same time I have to work.
Beautiful girls.
I have to.
we need that story.
I have to turn up in a bar. There was a lot. So I have to get the information, but then I'm seeing the girls, and then I have to turn up. And okay, time was not enough. Before I knew it, I had a woman in my house. And this woman is not ready to go anywhere.
But for me, what I love about your story is you didn't go like with this urge of alino kungamba, he has to tell me, why did he abandon me? You get
no.
For me,
It
that's
wasn't
the
that.
beautiful I think I learned I love about your story, that you didn't go looking for judgment.
Yes.
You just needed some answers.
Yeah. So basically, my life has been like that, and that the transition from me wanting to see my father and me becoming the father that I was looking out for was quite a transition.
Mm.
Like it was different because okay, do you know presenting what you're not told? Yeah, it's been really hard. And
Because this thing is a system that has to be carried on over
every
and
night,
over.
of course.
So if you have nothing about
Yes,
being a man
and
from
and
your
now
past,
you have results, so you have
you
to
have to
present.
figure things out for yourself, right?
And I really assume this is why we do the podcast. We don't want to leave anyone out. We want someone to know, at
Yeah,
least we want to push the
because
information to someone.
everyone has their experience, regardless of whether they have a dad or not.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole father figure is one that people experience differently. Now, actually, the story is deeper if you've had the father. Eh,
Just to you.
Actually,
Welcome, welcome.
some people have had the father who has been absent even in
I
their
know,
presence.
I
man.
know.
yeah.
So sad, so sad.
So it is really interesting that the father figure, because much as we give all thanks to mothers, um, sometimes we tend to forget the limitations of a father towards the love of the children. Yeah,
Yes.
we are men, so eventually I maybe who has not yet become the father, but
It's crazy,
I know what my father faced, I might face as a man.
of course.
Yeah, I for one, I will understand that he did this because of this, because I will at that point be experiencing it firsthand.
Yes.
Yes, and but I already know that it is very hard. You know why a child gets out of the mother's womb when they know their mom. You know that.
Yeah,
For
Because
real?
of the bond.
Yeah,
yeah, they do.
the voice. Yeah.
That's why they always encourage mothers that you can talk to your child while they're
Yeah,
sleeping.
While they're still in the
yeah.
womb.
Yes. Yes.
Come on, Lily.
Even the father, I tell you to represent, like,
Mm.
get
You
to your
talk to
truth.
them, man.
Yeah.
You
Hey, what
you're
up?
given
Get
your
Julie.
seconds to represent. Eh? So
3
anyway,
minutes of
it
fame.
is that is where the bond comes from being with this person all the time. Yeah. So you as a father, you're not going to be with your child all the time.
It's not
It's
easy.
definitely the mother.
Yes.
Yeah. So that bondage will never be the same. Yeah. So now, as a father, it depends on how you handle that situation, because
Neat life.
believe it or not, the mother will bond
Light,
more with the child,
light.
but you
Yeah,
ought
bring the
to
light.
also try and you ought to also try and bond with your child. Yeah, and these are the things you can't control. You have to take care of that family. You'll have to go away actually and spend some time out there hustling for your kid. Yeah.
But you see, Mike, on that,
Mm.
there is a balance that, okay, now me, I'm a father
Mm.
of two boys.
Yeah.
There's something,
Choice your father.
you talked about the bond.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a father, you're obligated to protect and provide
Yeah.
for your family.
Mm.
Now, we all know our economy. Sometimes for you to provide, it means to go and hustle
Going all the
Sure.
way.
all the way. And sometimes, given the nature of your job, sometimes you're away for a week, a month, or even on a daily, you go and come back. But sometimes you leave early, you come back late. Now, they will either say you are absent in the children's lives. If you're providing, society sometimes will say you're absent in the lives because you're too busy for family.
Mm.
But if you're not too busy
You're not
and you're
supporting.
not able to provide,
So sad.
That.
they will call you a useless,
Father.
useless father.
Mm.
So where do we strike the balance? How can we balance these two things?
In providing
Provide and be available
and be
and be
available.
present.
That is where the trick is.
Now, I think I have the answer. You see, like our fathers, they've not had proper systems to hold our families. By the time you become the father you've always wanted to be, you're starting from scratch. So you, like apparently Michi creative reasons that's why we're building Michi creatives is we we want these children to have a definition. I want my family.
Mr. Cameraman, tuweke matao.
I want my family.
Real light.
bulb,
Real
light.
light.
So pole lighting assistant.
Ne kali akatono kawa nako kumeza. Kaje.
Neka strip
Nenda
neka
kali.
liyo mu bag.
So katufuna live then
Your
tuongele.
phone is out of storage. Let's continue the
But
conversation.
did it save?
Mr. Bogere.
Yeah, I can go on.
Yeah, you go on.
Well, I was saying reasons that as to why we started Michi Creatives, as the biggest reason is I want my family. I want people after the dust after mine to know that okay, we are defined by this. So even when I'm not around, I want this system to stay. I want it to be part of our story that everyone that knows Michi knows our whole family. Like by the time my kids start to work, or by the time my kids make 7, I want them to be involved in what is ours, so that they can get to know what our system does and how we live lives. Just because if we don't do that, if you don't really organize your works, the works that we do, you will not have enough time to set up the system. You can never work to get the time for the people, just because you're working for someone. So for you to get the time to take care of your system properly, to be the man in your system, to have enough time to educate, to love, to do everything, to experiment life with these people, you're supposed to really work on your works. Because when you better your system, that means you bought time. You get, when you better your system, I think put it here. I think on top.
Is it our?
Can't it be
It's
on
you
this
to
table?
see. It's you to see whether you have
Can't
us.
it be on this table?
For us, we are okay. It's you to see whether you have us.
Well, I'm still saying, the more you better your system, the more you buy time. So the better your system, the more time you have to love. And I think that's the biggest hack.
So striking that balance, you have to take care of things as early as possible.
But by the time people are trying to understand, make them understand, let them start from what you know.
The time they need your love,
Yeah.
the time so they don't miss out the whole time. Yeah, especially when they are kids there, you're setting yourself up and all that. When they are kind of old, you have the time to see them, because now you can even talk to them, interact really well.
Can go out with them.
I mean, you're even